He was a Mafia king who had hidden for a short time in our quiet community, and my father had pointed a shotgun at him. For years, I believed that was the bravest thing my father had ever done. Then my father died, and I learned it was not. His bravest act had been something far more terrible. He had left me to the man he feared most. My father left me to the man he feared most. When I was 16, I saw my father point a shotgun at our neighbor. I was in the garden that morning, kneeling beside the tomato plants with soil beneath my fingernails and sunlight on the back of my neck. My little brother, Noah, was 6 then. He sat on the porch steps, breaking dry leaves into pieces and pretending they were money. Our house was small, modest. The kind of house where every crack had a story, and every curtain had been washed until the color faded. But I loved it. I loved the garden. I loved the blue gate. I loved the way my father whistled when he fixed things he could not afford to replace. Then a black car stopped outside. My father stepped out. He should have been at work. He was not. His face looked wrong. Not angry. Worse. Afraid. He looked toward the house beside ours. The neighbor was on his balcony. Lucien Vale. At that time, I only knew him as the quiet man who lived behind dark windows and never attended community meetings. People lowered their voices when his name was mentioned. Cars came to his house at night. Men in suits stood outside his gate and watched the street like they were waiting for violence to remember their address. But to my 16-year-old mind, Lucien was only strange. A cold, handsome man who never smiled. Then my father saw him watching me. Everything changed. My father reached into his truck. When his hand came out, he was holding his shotgun. "No," I whispered. He crossed the road. Lucien did not move. He stood on the balcony in a white shirt, both hands resting calmly on the railing, looking down at my father, as if a gun pointed at him was an ordinary inconvenience. My father lifted the shotgun. "Inside," he said. I froze. His voice changed. "Elena, take your brother and go inside. Now." I had never heard my father speak to me like that. Not once. Not even when I broke my mother's last porcelain bowl. Not even when Noah wandered too close to the main road and I failed to notice. That voice did not allow questions. I grabbed Noah's hand. He began to cry. I dragged him into the house and locked the door. Through the curtains, I saw my father standing in the street with the shotgun aimed at our neighbor. Lucien still did not move. No fear, no anger, only that terrible stillness. My father said something I could not hear. Lucien's gaze shifted once toward our house, toward me, then back to my father. He nodded. One slow nod, and went inside. That evening, my father gave us one rule. Neither of you will speak to that man. Noah looked confused. I sat stiffly at the table. My father's hands shook as he poured water into a glass. If he calls you, you do not answer. If he offers help, you do not accept. If you see his gate open, you cross the street. "Papa," I whispered, "what did he do?" My father looked at me. For a moment, I thought he would tell me. Instead, he said, "Some men are not dangerous because they lose control, Elena. They are dangerous because they never do." That sentence followed me into adulthood. Lucien Vale disappeared from the neighborhood 3 months later. But fear, once planted early, grows roots. By the time I was 24, I knew who he really was. Not from my father. My father never spoke of him again. I learned from whispers. News reports that never named him directly. Men arrested and released. Businesses burned. Witnesses vanished. Lucien Vale was not merely a dangerous man. He was a Mafia king who had hidden for a short time in our quiet community. The lawyer's office smelled of paper, coffee, and dust. Noah sat beside me in a borrowed black suit that was too large for his 13-year-old body. He had not cried since the funeral. That frightened me. I held his hand anyway. The lawyer, Mr. Harrow, could not meet my eyes. "Elena," he said gently, "your father left instructions." I nodded. My father had been a careful man, a quiet man, a man who paid bills early and kept receipts in labeled envelopes. So when the first debt document appeared, I thought there had been a mistake. Then came another, and another, loans, private payments, mortgages, names I did not recognize. Amounts that made the room tilt. "No," I said, "my father would never borrow this much." Mr. Harrow said nothing. "That is not possible." "I am sorry." I looked at Noah. His face was pale. "How much?" I asked. The lawyer told me. For several seconds, I heard nothing but my own heartbeat. My father had not left us poor. He had left us buried. Then Mr. Harrow opened a sealed envelope. "This was written by your father's hand and witnessed 2 months before his death." I stared at the paper. My father's handwriting crawled across the page, strong at first, shaking toward the end. Mr. Harrow read, "If I die before Noah reaches adulthood, Elena and Noah must go to Lucien Vale." My blood turned cold. "No," the lawyer continued. "All debts are to be transferred to him. He has agreed to assume them." "No," I repeated. Noah finally looked at me. "Who is Lucien Vale?" I could not answer. Mr. Harrow looked miserable. "There is more." I stood. "I do not want to hear more." "You need to." I said no. The lawyer lowered his voice. "Elena, your father did not only leave debts. He left danger." The room became very still. Mr. Harrow placed another document before me. At the bottom was my father's signature. Beside it was another, Lucien Vale. I knew that name before I knew the shape of his writing. Sharp, controlled, merciless. My father had signed an agreement with him. If my father died, Lucien Vale would take responsibility for every debt. He would protect Noah. He would protect me. And then came the line that nearly broke me. If Lucien Vale still wants my daughter when she is grown, he may ask for her hand, not as payment, not as possession, as a wife, with her full right to refuse. If she refuses, he will still protect her and the boy. I gripped the chair. My father's words blurred. "He sold me." "No," Mr. Harrow said quickly. I turned on him. "He wrote my name into an agreement with a criminal. He wrote your refusal into it too. That does not make it better." Noah pulled his hand from mine. "Who is he?" I could barely breathe. "The man Papa told us to stay away from." The lawyer's door opened behind us. No one knocked. I knew before turning. The room changed. It was not dramatic. No wind, no thunder, only pressure. The kind that enters before powerful men do. Lucien Vale stepped into the office. 8 years had changed him. Not softened him. Refined him. He wore a dark suit without a tie. His black hair touched neatly away from his face. His jaw shadowed, as if sleep had never fully claimed him. His eyes found mine. They were exactly as I remembered. Too calm, too aware, too dark. "Elena," he said. My name sounded wrong in his mouth. Like something private. I stepped in front of Noah. Lucien noticed. Something moved across his expression. Not amusement. Not insult. Recognition. "You came quickly," Mr. Harrow said. Lucien did not look at him. I was already nearby. Of course he was. Monsters always arrive before doors finish opening. I lifted my chin. My father was wrong. Lucien's gaze stayed on my face. "About many things. I will not go with you. You are free to refuse." "Then I refuse." Noah looked between us. Lucien nodded once. "I will still pay the debts." The words hit me harder than a threat would have. "I do not want your money." "No." His voice remained even. "You want your father alive. That cannot be arranged." I flinched. Noah made a small sound. Lucien's eyes shifted to him. For the first time, his voice softened. "You are Noah." My brother stared. Lucien did not step closer. "Smart man." He looked back at me. "Your father hid you well." A chill passed through me. "What does that mean?" Lucien turned to the lawyer. "Has she been told?" Mr. Harrow swallowed. "Not fully." Lucien looked at me again. "Then not here." I laughed. It sounded broken. "You think I am going anywhere with you?" "No." He reached into his coat slowly. I stiffened. He noticed. His mouth tightened. He removed a small card and placed it on the desk. "My address. My private number. A driver will wait outside your house from tonight." I said no. "You refused me. Not protection. I refuse both." His eyes darkened. "Elena." There it was. The first warning. Low. Quiet. Not loud enough for anyone outside the room to hear, but my body understood it. "Your father died running from people who do not know he is dead yet." My heart stopped. Lucien continued. "When they find out, they will come to see what he left behind." His eyes moved to Noah. Especially him. I felt Noah's hand clutch the back of my dress. Lucien looked at me. "You may hate me from any safe distance you like." He turned toward the door. "But make sure it is safe." Then he left. For 2 days, I ignored him. On the 3rd night, someone broke into our house. I woke to glass breaking downstairs. For one terrible second, I was 16 again, hiding behind curtains while my father raised a gun. Then Noah screamed. I ran from my room. 2 men were in the hallway. One held Noah by the back of his shirt. The other turned toward me. "Where is it?" he asked. I did not understand. He walked closer. "Your father had something that does not belong to him." "My father is dead." That does not answer me. Noah struggled. The man holding him slapped him so hard his head hit the wall. Something inside me went silent. I had always thought fear would make me collapse. It did not. It made me clear. I stepped back. The man smiled. Smart girl. I reached behind me, grabbed the ceramic lamp from the table, and smashed it against his face. He fell with a shout. The other man dropped Noah. Run! I screamed. Noah ran toward me. A gun lifted. Then the front door exploded inward. Lucien entered like the answer to a nightmare. Not alone. Men moved behind him. Fast. Silent. The intruders barely turned before they were on the floor. Lucien crossed the room and caught the wrist of the man who had hit Noah. I heard bone crack. The man screamed. Lucien leaned close. His voice was soft. Children, the man gasped. Lucien twisted harder. Never. I grabbed Noah and pulled him against me. His whole body shook. Lucien looked at him, then at the blood on his lip. The darkness in his face deepened until he no longer looked human. He looked like my father had been right to fear him. Then his eyes came to me, and the darkness stopped at the edge of my skin, as if he had trained it not to touch me. You are coming with me now, he said. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to scream that I would never enter his house. But Noah was shaking in my arms. Our front door hung broken. Blood marked the floor my father used to mop every Saturday, and somewhere in the city, more men were looking for us. I looked at Lucien Vale, the man my father had warned me away from, the man my father had left me to. Fine, I whispered. Lucien nodded. Pack nothing. What? You will not go back inside alone. I need clothes for Noah. My people will get everything. Your people just broke my door. They saved your brother. I hated that he was right. I hated that he had come. I hated that he had come. I hated that part of me had been waiting for him since the glass broke. Lucien took us to his house. Not the old neighbor's house. That was long gone. This was a mansion behind iron gates, built on a hill above the city. It was beautiful in the way weapons could be beautiful. Polished, cold, designed to impress and intimidate. Noah fell asleep in a room larger than our living room. I sat beside his bed until his breathing steadied. When I came downstairs, Lucien was standing near the window. His jacket was gone. His sleeves were rolled to his forearms. There was blood on one cuff. Not his. I stopped several feet away. You knew they would come. Yes. You could have told me clearly. I tried. No. You gave warnings like a man used to being obeyed. He turned. And you ignored them like a woman used to being protected by a dead man. The words struck deep. I crossed the room and slapped him. The sound shocked me. It shocked one of his men by the door more. The man moved. Lucien lifted one finger. The man stopped. Lucien's face had turned slightly from the force. Slowly, he looked back at me. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. I felt it. The room felt it. But his voice remained controlled. Do not do that again. My hand trembled. Do not speak of my father like that again. Silence. Then Lucien said, Fair. That surprised me. I took a breath. What did my father hide? Lucien looked toward the door. His man left without being told. When we were alone, Lucien poured a drink. He did not offer me one. Your brother's mother was named Celine Cross. I frowned. My father said her name was Sarah. He lied. My stomach tightened. Celine belonged to the Moretti family. I knew that name. Everyone knew that name. They were not on television often. They did not need to be. Their fear did their publicity for them. Lucien continued. She was not your father's wife. I know that. She was his mistake. I stiffened. Careful. His eyes held mine. I do not mean Noah. The anger in me stopped. I mean she entered his life with a purpose. She was running from her own people and using him as a clean name. My father would have known. No. Lucien looked away. Your father saw wounded women the way he saw wounded children. He thought kindness could identify lies. That sounded like him. Painfully. What did she do? She stole information from the Morettis before she died. What kind of information? The kind men kill families to recover. I sat slowly. The men tonight. Moretti. My father did not have it. No. But they thought he did. Yes. And Noah? Lucien's expression hardened. They believe Celine may have hidden it through her child. I went cold. He is 13. They will still cut him open if they believe there is a map beneath his skin. I stood so fast the chair moved. Do not say things like that. You need to understand. He is a child. Yes. Lucien stepped closer. That is why your father came to me. I stared at him. The room seemed to tilt again. When? 2 months ago. My father saw you? Yes. I shook my head. No, he hated you. He feared me. That is the same thing. No, Lucien's voice lowered. Your father understood the difference. A memory came back. My father standing in the street, shotgun raised. Lucien on the balcony. The nod. What did he say to you? Lucien looked at me for a long time. Then he said, he asked if I still wanted you. My body went still. The words moved through me slowly. Wrong. Disturbing. Impossible. I was 16 when you saw me. I know. You watched me. Yes. The honesty turned my stomach. Lucien did not look away. I never touched you. Never spoke to you. Never approached you. Never allowed any man near me to mention you twice. His voice remained even. But I never stopped wanting you. The room tightened around me. I stepped back. What? Lucien's gaze stayed on my face. I stayed away because your father demanded it. Because you were young. Because even a man like me knows some doors should stay locked until time opens them. My pulse became uneven. But I did not stop watching. I stared at him. Slowly, memories began arranging themselves into a more frightening picture. The kind young teacher who stopped walking me home after my father visited the school. The mechanic's son who suddenly apologized and stopped calling. The man from church who asked if he could visit, then left town the next week without explanation. The harmless suitors who vanished before anything could begin. I had believed men simply lost interest in me. I had believed I was too quiet, too plain, too sheltered, too difficult to want for long. My voice came out thin. What did you do? Lucien's expression did not change. I kept men away from what I could not have. The confession landed like a hand around my throat. You had no right. No. But you did it. Yes. I stared at him in horror. My father knew. Lucien was silent. That silence answered me. He found out. Yes. And he still came to you? His jaw tightened. He had no other choice. My eyes burned. You caged my life from a distance. I guarded it. That is not the same thing. No, he said. It is not. For the first time, I saw how truly dangerous Lucien was. Not because he could break bones. Not because men feared him. But because he could want something for years, deny himself the right to touch it, and still refuse to let anyone else close. That was not love. Not yet. That was obsession with discipline. And somehow, that frightened me more than obsession without it. You think this makes me feel protected? I whispered. No. What then? His eyes darkened. I think it makes you understand why your father feared me. I had no answer. Because I did. Lucien stepped back. I will not pretend I am a good man, Elena. His voice lowered. And I will not insult you by pretending your innocence makes you safe from men like me. My breath caught. He looked at me like he hated himself for wanting me, and hated the world more for forcing me into his house. You were raised carefully, he said, gently, like something precious. I am not something. No. His gaze moved across my face. You are worse. I went still. What does that mean? It means you are innocent without being empty, soft without being weak, sheltered without being stupid. His voice became rougher. I have known beautiful women, clever women, ruthless women. I have never known purity that still looks directly at darkness and asks it questions. I could not move. A part of me hated the way those words entered my body. A part of me hated that I understood desire could be frightening before it became tender. Lucien looked away first. Go upstairs. This time I obeyed. Not because he ordered me, because I needed distance. For the next several days, I lived in Lucien Vale's house like a prisoner who had not been locked in. Every door opened. Every hallway was watched. Every window showed walls, gates, and men with weapons beneath their jackets. Noah adapted faster than I did. That frightened me too. He ate. He slept. He asked Lucien's driver questions about cars. He did not ask for our house. Children are sometimes wiser than adults. They know when safety has changed shape. I did not. I wandered through Lucien's mansion with anger in my chest. Anger at my father, at Celine Cross, at the dead woman whose secrets had followed my brother from birth, at Lucien, always Lucien. He had not only entered my life after my father's death, he had been standing at the edges of it for years, invisible, possessive, patient. I wondered how many choices I thought were mine had been quietly touched by him. It made me sick. And yet, it also explained things I had blamed myself for. Maybe I had not been unwanted. Maybe men had not simply lost interest. Maybe someone had taught them to be afraid. The thought made me angrier. But beneath that anger was something I refused to name. Because being wanted by Lucien Vale was not gentle. It was not safe. It was not normal. It was like standing near a locked room and hearing something breathing inside. Lucien did not force conversation. That made it worse. A cruel man would have been easier. A vulgar man would have confirmed every fear, but Lucien was controlled. Too controlled. He gave orders quietly, men obeyed quickly. He never touched me without necessity. He never entered a room I occupied without making his presence known first. And yet the darkness around him was not imaginary. I saw it one night. One of the men captured from our house was brought into a room beneath the mansion. I should not have followed. But fear had made me curious. Curiosity made me reckless. Through a narrow gap in the door, I saw Lucien sit across from the man. No shouting. No blood at first. Only questions. The man laughed. Lucien listened. Then he placed the man's hand flat on the table and picked up a small hammer. I stepped back before the first scream, but I heard it. I covered my mouth with both hands. When Lucien came upstairs 20 minutes later, I was waiting in the hall. He stopped. You followed. You hurt him. Yes. You tortured him. Yes. No excuse. No denial. My voice shook. How do you sleep? His eyes were tired. Lightly. I hated the answer. I hated the truth in it. You are exactly what my father feared. Yes. He stepped closer. And exactly what he needed. Tears burned my eyes. You think that absolves you? No. Then what do you want from me? His gaze moved over my face. Not hungrily. Not gently. Like a man studying a wound he had no right to touch. Nothing you are unwilling to give. I laughed through tears. You signed a paper for me. I signed a paper binding myself to your survival. You expect me to believe there is a difference? Yes. Why? Because if I wanted to own you, Elena, you would feel owned. A chill passed over my skin. He saw it. His face closed. I should not have said that. No, I whispered. You should not have. I left him standing there. That night, I locked my bedroom door. In the morning, a new lock had been installed. On the inside. No one mentioned it, not even Lucien. That was the first thing he did that confused me. The second came 3 days later. Noah had a nightmare. He woke screaming for our father. I ran to his room. Lucien was already there, standing in the doorway but not entering. Noah sat on the bed, shaking. I want Papa, he sobbed. I climbed onto the bed and held him. Lucien remained outside, like a shadow with manners. Noah looked at him through tears. Did my mother cause this? The question broke my heart. Lucien did not answer quickly. That mattered. Finally he said, Your mother made choices before you were born. None of them are your guilt. Noah's face crumpled. Did she love me? I closed my eyes. I did not know what to say. Lucien did. She died bringing you into the world. His voice was quiet. I do not know if she knew how to love well, but she made sure your father was called. That means some part of her wanted you safe. Noah cried harder. I looked at Lucien. For the first time, I saw not the Mafia king, not the man from the balcony, not the monster beneath the house. I saw a man who knew how to speak to children who had inherited shame they did not earn. Later I found him in the library. You were kind to him. Lucien did not look up from the papers on his desk. He needed the truth softened, not removed. My father used to do that. I know. You knew him better than I thought. Not well, but enough. Lucien set down his pen. Your father was afraid of me. But he did not grovel, even at the end. A small ache opened in my chest. What was he like when he came to you? Thin. I swallowed. He hid that from me. Yes. What else? Lucien leaned back. He brought a folder. Every debt, every false name he had used, every school Noah attended, every doctor, every address, every person he suspected might have followed him. My father. Careful until the end. He asked how long he had. Lucien said. How long? Before they found you. I whispered. What did you tell him? That they already had. The room blurred. Lucien's voice became quieter. He did not cry. No, he wouldn't. He asked if I could save you. I pressed my fingers to my mouth. And you said? Yes. Lucien looked at me. Then he asked what it would cost. My breath stopped. What did you say? Nothing. He looked away. He was surprised. Why nothing? Lucien was silent for so long, I thought he would not answer. Then he said, because he had once stood in a street with a shotgun and reminded me there were lines even men like me should not cross. I could not speak. He protected you from me when you were 16, Lucien said. I owed him the chance to let me protect you from everyone else. And the Morettis? His expression changed. The name brought something old and vicious into his eyes. What about them? You don't only want to stop them because of us. No. The answer came too easily. I stared at him. What did they do to you? Lucien's hand stilled on the desk. For a moment, I thought he would refuse. Then he said, They slaughtered my brother. My breath caught. I didn't know you had a brother. I don't. The words were flat. Dead. I understood then. They used him to draw me out, Lucien continued. Years ago. Before I hid in your neighborhood. His gaze moved to the window. They sent him back to me in pieces. My stomach turned. I'm sorry. He looked at me, and for a second I saw the cost beneath the control. No one is sorry in my world, Elena. They are either useful, guilty, or dead. I went quiet. Lucien continued. The Morettis thought Celine Cross stole only from them. She stole from everyone. From my people too. Her ledger contains names tied to my brother's murder. So protecting us is not separate from my revenge. The truth should have frightened me. It did. But it also steadied me. Lucien was not pretending to be noble. He wanted vengeance. He wanted the Morettis broken. And somehow, within that same darkness, he wanted Noah safe. He wanted me untouched. He wanted my father's final request honored. That was the terrible thing about Lucien. He could be monstrous and faithful at once. I hated how much that confused me. That night I dreamed of the balcony, but the dream changed. My father still stood with the shotgun. Lucien still stood above him. Only this time, I heard what they said. My father, she is a child. Lucien, I know. My father, look at her again and I will kill you. Lucien, no, you won't. My father, try me. Lucien, I will stay away. My father, why should I believe you? Lucien, because I am worse than you think. Not less. When I woke, I was crying. Slowly, understanding began to poison my hatred. That was how it felt at first. Like poison. I did not want to understand Lucien. Understanding would make fear complicated, and fear had been simple. But Lucien became impossible to keep simple. He could order violence before breakfast and sit silently through Noah's schoolwork by afternoon. He could frighten grown men into trembling and then move a glass away from the edge of the table because he noticed my hand shaking near it. He never asked for gratitude. He never asked for forgiveness. That made both harder to withhold. One evening, I found him in the garden behind the mansion. It was not a soft garden like ours. No tomato plants. No crooked fence. Everything was trimmed into obedience. Lucien stood near a stone fountain, speaking on the phone. His voice was cold. Find him. A pause. No. Alive. Another pause. Because death is too little for men who threaten children. He ended the call. I should have left. Instead, I said, my father would hate this place. Lucien turned. Yes. You agree too quickly. He was a modest man. This house is not modest. It looks lonely. Something in his expression shifted, only slightly. It is secure. That is not the same thing. No. The fountain moved water between us. I stepped closer. Do you have any family? None that matters. That means yes. His mouth tightened. It means none that matters. I understood the wall. For once, I did not push it. My father used to say a house without noise is only a building. Lucien looked toward the mansion. There is noise now. Noah? And you. I almost smiled. I am not noisy. You are quiet loudly. I looked at him. He did not smile. But something had softened, not much. Enough to be dangerous. The attraction did not arrive like lightning. It crept in like smoke under a door. I began noticing the way Lucien listened. The way he looked at me when I spoke, as if every word had weight. The way he never interrupted my silence. Men had always called me gentle, as though it meant harmless. Lucien never made that mistake. One afternoon, his advisor, Marco, dismissed my suggestion about moving Noah to a smaller school under another name. It is too cautious, Marco said. Lucien looked at me. Explain. So I did. Quietly. I explained that Noah did not need a prestigious school that made him visible. He needed ordinary noise. Ordinary children. Ordinary routines. He needed to stop feeling like bait. When I finished, the room was silent. Marco looked annoyed. Lucien said, do it her way. Marco frowned. Boss? Lucien's eyes moved to him. Marco stopped. Afterward, I said, you only agreed because you wanted to annoy him. No. Then why? Because you saw the boy. We saw the threat. The words stayed with me. That was the first time Lucien made me feel powerful. Not protected. Not desired. Powerful. A week later, the Morettis sent a message. Not to Lucien, to me. It arrived in a white envelope with no stamp. Inside was a photograph of Noah leaving his new school. On the back, someone had written, "Your father died because he was stubborn. Do not inherit his habits." I could not breathe. Lucien found me in the hallway holding the photograph. He took it from my hand. His face changed. The air around him seemed to empty. Who gave you this? I found it under my door. His gaze lifted. Under your door? Within 10 minutes, every guard in the house had been summoned. Within 20, one was missing. Lucien said nothing when they told him. Nothing. That silence frightened me more than rage. He turned to Marco. Bring him back. I followed Lucien into his office. Someone inside your house gave this to me. Yes. You said we were safe here. His eyes cut to mine. You are. No. I held up the photograph. This is not safety. This is a prettier cage with better locks. Lucien stepped toward me. You think I don't know that? I think you are used to danger becoming normal. That stopped him. I continued. You can live like this. Noah cannot. I am handling it. With blood, if necessary. And after that, more blood? More enemies? More boys growing up learning every problem is solved by breaking someone? Lucien's face hardened. You think your father kept you alive with gentle words? No. My voice shook. But I think he died trying to keep us from becoming the thing chasing us. Lucien looked away. The words had landed. Good. I was glad. I was also afraid. Not of him. Of how badly I wanted him to hear me. That night, Lucien did not sleep. Neither did I. Near dawn, he knocked on my door. I opened it. He stood outside, jacket gone, eyes shadowed. I found the man. My hand tightened on the door. Is he dead? No. I searched his face. Why? Because you asked what comes after blood. He looked almost angry about the answer. I did not like having no answer. Something in my chest moved. What did you do? Sent him back. To the Morettis? Yes. Why? With a message. What message? Lucien's eyes held mine. That I know what they want. And if they come near Noah again, I will give it to every enemy they have. I went still. You found the information? No. Then, but they do not know that. I stared at him. For the first time, Lucien had chosen strategy over punishment. Not mercy, not goodness. Something colder, but wiser. Something that kept Noah breathing without filling the floor with bodies. You listened, I said. His jaw tightened. Do not sound so surprised. I am surprised. He looked toward the window. So am I. The moment should have ended there. It did not. Neither of us moved. The hallway was dim. The house slept around us. Lucien's eyes lowered briefly to my mouth, then returned to my eyes. It was not the gaze of the man on the balcony watching a girl he could not approach. It was the gaze of a man looking at a woman he still did not believe he had the right to touch. I stepped back. Not because I did not want him closer, because I did, and that was dangerous. Good night, I whispered. His voice was lower when he answered. Good night, Elena. The next morning, Noah asked if Lucien was evil. He said it while eating toast. Children choose terrible moments for impossible questions. I sat across from him. Lucien was not there. That made it easier. And harder. What do you think? I asked. Noah shrugged. He scares people. Yes. He hurt the man who hit me. Yes. But he didn't lie when I asked about my mother. I said nothing. And he listens when you talk. My throat tightened. He does sometimes. Noah looked down at his plate. Papa trusted him. The words hurt. Yes. Do you? I looked toward the window. In the garden, Lucien stood with Marco, speaking quietly. Dark suit. Darker reputation. My father's last desperate choice. I don't know, I said. Noah nodded. I think I do. That frightened me most, because it meant I was not the only one beginning to change. The Morettis struck again 2 nights later. Not at the mansion, at our old house. They burned it. By the time we arrived, flames had eaten the roof. I stood outside the gate and watched my childhood collapse in sparks. The blue gate blackened, the garden burned, The curtains my father had washed and rehung so many times turned to ash. Noah sobbed into my side. Lucien stood behind us, not touching. Present. I could not cry at first. The pain was too large. Then I saw the tomato plants. Charred, bent, gone. A sound left me. Lucien moved then. His hand came to my shoulder. I should have pulled away. I did not. They burned my father, I whispered. Lucien's hand tightened. No. His voice was low. They burned wood and walls. I turned to him with tears streaming down my face. That was our home. I know. No, you don't. His eyes darkened. Then he said, I burned my own home when I was 19. I went still. What? My family lived there. My anger faltered. They were not good people. He looked toward the fire. Neither was I. I did not ask more. Not then. But I understood something. Lucien did not only know how to destroy. He knew what it meant to watch fire erase a life and still remain alive afterward. Noah cried himself sick that night. I stayed beside him until he slept. When I returned to the hallway, Lucien was waiting. They want you broken, he said. I leaned against the wall. They are doing well. No. I laughed weakly. You are very bad at comfort. I am not comforting you. I looked up. His face was hard. I am telling you what they do not understand. What? That grief is not the same as surrender. I closed my eyes. My father would have said it differently, more gently. But the meaning would have been the same. Lucien stepped closer. Elena. I opened my eyes. You are allowed to break tonight. His voice lowered. Just do not hand them the pieces. That was the closest Lucien Vale had ever come to tenderness. It nearly ruined me. The truth came from the last place I expected. Celine Cross's grave. Lucien found it through an old hospital record. A false name. A paid nurse. A forgotten cemetery at the edge of the city. We went at dawn. Noah refused to come. I did not blame him. The grave was small, unvisited. The stone bore a name I had never heard. Celine Cross. Lucien stood beside me. She was 27, he said. I looked at the grave. You knew her. No. But you know everything. Not everything. Enough. He accepted that. What did she steal? Lucien pulled a folded paper from his coat. A ledger. Names? Names. Payments. Police. Judges. Routes. Graves. I looked at him. Graves? People the Morettis buried and forgot. My stomach turned. And names tied to your brother. Lucien's face went still. Yes. Your brother is the real reason you want them destroyed. His eyes remained on the grave. One reason. What is the other? He looked at me. You. My breath caught. It was too much. Too direct. Too dark. Too honest. Then a voice answered from behind us. Touching. I turned. Mr. Harrow stood between two of Lucien's men. The lawyer. My father's lawyer. His face was pale. His hands shook. Lucien did not look surprised. Of course he didn't. I stepped back. You? Mr. Harrow's eyes filled. Your father gave me a sealed box 13 years ago. He told me if anything ever happened to him, I should burn it. My heart pounded. Did you? No. Lucien's voice became deadly soft. You sold pieces of it. Harrow began crying. I was in debt. I didn't know what it was, not at first. You knew enough to stay afraid. I didn't tell them about the children. Lucien moved so quickly I barely saw it. He grabbed Harrow by the throat and slammed him against a tree. The birds scattered. Lucien! He did not seem to hear me. Harrow clawed at his hand. They found the old house because of you, Lucien said. His voice was calm. That made it worse. Because you gave them enough to follow. Please, Harrow gasped. Lucien's hand tightened. I saw the man from beneath the mansion again. The hammer, the screams, the darkness my father had feared. I stepped closer. Lucien, nothing. I placed my hand on his arm. His eyes cut to me. For one terrifying second, I saw how far away he had gone. Then he looked at my hand. His grip loosened. Harrow collapsed to the ground. I was shaking. Lucien stared at him. You will give me the box. Harrow coughed, sobbing. Yes. And then you will disappear into a life so small, even your shadow forgets you. Harrow nodded frantically. Lucien stepped back. I let go of his arm. He looked at me. There was no apology in his face. Only effort. For Lucien, that was more honest. Later, after the box was recovered, we sat in his car outside the cemetery. Neither of us spoke. Finally, he said, I would have killed him. I know. You stopped me. Yes. Why? I looked at my hands. Because I am tired of men deciding death is the only serious answer. He said nothing. And because no one needs to learn that power can stop. Lucien turned toward me. For a long time he only looked. Then he said, "Your father raised you too gently for my world." I looked at him. "And yet?" His eyes lowered to my mouth, then returned to my eyes. "And yet you keep surviving it." The ledger intensified the war. Lucien did not simply want to protect us now. He wanted to finish what the Morettis had started years ago. They had taken his brother. They had hunted my father. They had threatened Noah. They had entered the edges of my life before I was old enough to understand danger. Lucien moved through the city like a blade returning to an old wound. Arrests happened. A judge resigned. A warehouse burned. 2 men vanished. I did not ask if they were dead. That was my compromise with the world I had entered. I did not approve of Lucien's darkness, but I stopped pretending light alone could have saved us. The final attack came on a rainy evening. It was not elegant. Evil rarely is when it becomes desperate. Noah's school bus was stopped 2 streets from the mansion. The driver was paid. The guard was shot. Noah was taken. When the call came, Lucien's face went empty. I knew then why people feared him. Not because he raged, because something inside him could shut off. He listened to the voice on the phone. Then he handed it to me. A man said, "Bring the ledger, or the boy comes back in pieces." The world tilted. I gripped the phone. "Noah?" There was a rustle. Then my brother's voice. "Elena?" I broke. "Noah, listen to me." The phone cut off. I looked at Lucien. For the first time since I had known him, I saw fear. Not on his face. In the stillness beneath it. He turned to his men. "No police." "Lucien," I said. He did not hear me. "Every exit covered. Marco, get the warehouse map. I want snipers on." "Lucien." He stopped. I stepped in front of him. "They expect the monster." His eyes were black. "They will get him. And they will kill Noah before he reaches the door." A muscle moved in his jaw. I held his gaze. "You told me I see the boy when others see the threat. This is not the time." "This is exactly the time." His voice dropped. "Elena, they have your brother. And they want you blind." Silence. Rain struck the windows. I forced myself to breathe. My father hid us for 13 years, because he understood something. Men chasing secrets become stupid when they think they are close. Lucien stared at me. I continued. "They do not want Noah. They want certainty. Give them uncertainty." Marco looked at Lucien. "She's right." Lucien did not move. I stepped closer. "You can destroy them after he is safe." His eyes stayed on mine. "But first, bring my brother home." The warehouse smelled of rust and wet concrete. I wore a wire beneath my coat. Lucien hated it. I knew because he had said nothing for 20 minutes. That was Lucien's version of shouting. "You should not be here," he said as we waited in the car. "They asked for me. They asked for the ledger. They asked for leverage. That is me." His hand tightened on the steering wheel. "I can still stop this." I looked at him. "No, you can't." His eyes turned to mine. Something raw moved there. Not possession. Not control. Fear. "Elena." I softened. "Only a little. I am afraid too." His throat moved. "You should be." "I am." I reached for the door. His hand closed around my wrist. Not hard. Just enough to stop me. "If this goes wrong, it won't." "If it does," he said, voice rougher now, "run toward the east exit." "Not me." I stared at him. "What?" "They will expect you to run toward me." My chest tightened. "And you?" His eyes held mine. "I have survived worse." I hated him for saying that. I hated him for meaning it. Before I could think better of it, I leaned across the space between us and kissed him. It was brief, shaking. Not romantic enough for stories. Too desperate for that. When I pulled back, Lucien had gone completely still. I whispered, "Survive this too." Then I left the car. Inside, the Moretti men waited. Noah was tied to a chair. His face was bruised, but alive. My knees almost failed. "Elena," he cried. "I'm here." A man stepped from the shadows. Older, gray hair, cold eyes. "Where is the ledger?" I lifted the bag. "Here," he smiled. "Vale lets his woman deliver now?" I forced my voice steady. "Vale does what I ask." The smile faded. "Good." Uncertainty. I placed the bag on the floor. "Let my brother go." He laughed. "Not yet." Behind him, one of his men opened the bag. Inside was the ledger. Not the real one. A copy. Incomplete. poisoned with false trails Lucien's people had prepared. The man flipped through it. His face changed. "What is this?" "The reason half your friends are already making calls to save themselves," I said. He lifted his gun. "You stupid girl." I looked at Noah. "Close your eyes." Gunfire shattered the room. Lucien's men moved from every side. Glass broke. Men fell. Someone grabbed me from behind. An arm locked around my throat. The gray-haired man pressed a gun to my head. "Stop!" he shouted. Everything froze. Through smoke and rain, I saw Lucien. He stood near the entrance, gun in hand. His eyes were on me. Only me. The man holding me laughed. "There he is." The devil on a leash. Lucien did not move. The gun pressed harder to my temple. "Drop it." Lucien dropped his weapon. My heart stopped. "No," I whispered. The man smiled. "So she is the weakness." Lucien's voice was calm. "No." He looked at me. "She is the witness." The man frowned. A red dot appeared on his chest. Then another, then three. Lucien's eyes never left mine. "And you should have checked the windows." The shots came together. The arm around me loosened. I fell. Lucien caught me before I hit the ground. For 1 second, the world was only noise. Then Noah was there, sobbing, arms around my waist. I held him so tightly he complained he could not breathe. Lucien stood over us, one hand bleeding, face pale. "You're hurt," I said. "It's nothing." I looked at the blood running down his wrist. "You are a terrible liar." Noah cried harder. Lucien lowered himself slowly in front of him. "Are you injured?" Noah shook his head. Then, unexpectedly, he threw himself at Lucien. Lucien froze. My brother clung to him. "Thank you," Noah sobbed. Lucien's hand hovered awkwardly, then settled on Noah's back. His eyes met mine over my brother's head. Something in them broke open. Not weakness. Not softness. Something older. Something saved too late and still grateful. My father's funeral had shattered our old life. The night at the warehouse ended the war he had died fighting. After that, truth came in pieces. The real ledger went to people powerful enough to bury the Morettis publicly. Lucien kept copies. Of course he did. Noah entered a new school under his real name. For the first time, hiding was no longer the center of his life. As for me, I returned to our old street once. The house was gone. Only the blue gate remained, blackened but standing. Lucien came with me. He waited by the car until I called him. Together we stood before the ruins. "This is where I first saw you," I said. "Garden," he replied. I looked at him. "You remember?" "Yes." I should have been disturbed. I was not. "You frightened me." "I know. My father frightened me more." Lucien looked at the broken gate. He was right to. I turned. "To fear you?" "Yes." The honesty hurt less now. But not only that, he looked at me. He feared what I might want before I had earned the right to want anything. I thought of my father, his shotgun, his shaking hands, his desperate will. "He trusted you at the end." Lucien's voice lowered. "I know." That must have cost him. "Yes." We stood in silence. Then he said, "The agreement can be destroyed." My heart stilled. "What?" "Your father's agreement. The marriage clause. Everything." I turned fully toward him. "You would do that?" "Yes." "Why?" His jaw tightened. "Because your father gave you a choice. I will not dishonor him by turning that choice into a cage." I looked at the man before me. The Mafia king. The monster. The protector. The boy my father had once warned away. The man who had stayed away, but never fully let go. The man who had crossed lines and then learned to stop at others. I remembered what I had believed the title of my life to be. My father left me to the man he feared most. But that was not the full truth. My father left me to the man he feared most because he trusted that fear more than another man's kindness. He knew Lucien's darkness was real, but he also knew it had rules. And in the end, rules had saved us where goodness alone might have died. "I hated you," I said. "I know. I feared you. You should have. I still do sometimes." His eyes held mine. "Good. That is not comforting. I do not want you careless with me." I stepped closer. "But I am not careless." "No." His voice lowered. "You never were." I looked at his hand. Scarred. Violent. Steady. Then I placed mine in it. "I don't want a cage." His fingers closed carefully around mine. "I know. I don't want to be payment. You were never payment. I don't want to belong to your darkness." His face changed. "You don't." I looked up at him. "Then what do you want?" For the first time, Lucien Vale looked uncertain, not afraid of enemies. Not afraid of death, afraid of hope. I want to come to you without your father's ghost standing between us, he said. My throat tightened. I want to ask, not claim. Rain began to fall softly over the ruined garden. I thought of the girl I had been at 16, the father with the shotgun, the man on the balcony, all of us trapped inside a story none of us understood yet. Then I said, ask me one day. Lucien's breath changed. One day? When I am ready. He nodded. I can wait. I almost smiled. You already did. His eyes softened. Only slightly. Only for me. Yes, he said. I did. 6 months later, Lucien asked. Not in his mansion. Not in a restaurant filled with men watching exits. He asked in the garden he rebuilt behind our new home. A modest one, with tomato plants, a blue gate, and noise. Noah complained from inside that dinner was burning. Lucien ignored him. He stood before me, no guards close enough to hear, no agreement, no debt, no dead father's handwriting between us. Only choice. Elena, he said, will you marry me? I looked at him for a long time. At the darkness that had not vanished, at the restraint that had grown around it, at the man my father had feared, at the man my father had trusted. Then I said yes, not because I had been left to him, not because he had saved me, not because danger had mistaken itself for love. I said yes because somewhere between fear and truth, between blood and restraint, between the girl in the garden and the woman standing before him, I had seen him clearly, and he had seen me, gentle, quiet, unbroken. His hand shook when he put the ring on my finger. Just once. I pretended not to notice. Then he kissed me. Not like a man taking what had been promised. Not like a monster claiming a prize. But like a dangerous man who had finally learned that love was not another form of possession. Behind us, Noah shouted that the food was definitely ruined. I laughed against Lucien's mouth. For the first time, he laughed too. And somewhere in my heart, I imagined my father standing at the old blue gate. Shotgun lowered, watching, still afraid, still stubborn, still loving us the only way he knew how. He had not left me to a monster. He had left a monster with instructions. Protect them, honor her, let her choose. And somehow, against every dark thing that had tried to claim us, Lucien Vale obeyed. Author's note. Some love stories begin with a kiss. Others begin with a warning, a secret, an impossible inheritance, or a man you were told never to trust. Here on BingeTenderPlots, you will find complicated characters, dangerous choices, unexpected attraction, hidden truths, and love stories that rarely go where you expect them to. So tell me, was Elena's father right to trust Lucien with his children? And could you ever feel safe with a man you had been raised to fear? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe to BingeTenderPlots, turn on notifications, and share it with someone who loves emotional stories with unusual premises and unexpected twists. There are more complicated people, dangerous secrets, and unlikely love stories waiting for you here. Choose your next one. Thank you for watching.